services we normally provide, and we can get a couple of those, is then I can compare those things. Each of us who's been on in the HOA and looking at, are aware of all the services being provided, can then say, well, this is alike, this is not alike, and so here's where you have to tweak it. And that would be a very good idea.
Need, convenience, and luxury categorizations as well.
Yeah, right. So I think that's a great idea. Then, of course, just so you see my long-term trajectory, I'm hoping that we would be that by the middle of November we would have received enough bids that we could start a process of investigating recommendations, interviewing with the board, sending each member of the subcommittee off, to talk to homeowners and board members of this property management firm that works in this HOA, which is of comparable size and type to ours, and get reports back so that we can start. So that by the end of by the November meeting, which might again have to be the last week of November, we would be in a position to. Before the meeting, we would be in a position to make recommendations so that at that meeting we could have people from the places that the subcommittee is recommending to the board be looked at seriously. And
one, 2 or 3 primary candidates.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. Meet them. If we, minimally, we would have the bids, and we would be able to compare the bids at the November meeting. We'll have another big job to do in November, which is to look at the draft budget. And then in December, we're going to actually put off the budget until December this year, in part because I don't think we should do a budget until we have a clearer idea of the likelihood that we're going to be going one way rather than
one thing to keep in mind is holidays. That's going to stir into that as well. We ran into that back in 2006 when we had the whole Mansard thing.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Basically, everybody shut down between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and so that's something to keep in mind.
We should definitely try to make sure that we time the business of presenting the bids to the board, and we might want to have another meeting, not unlike this one, before the board meeting in November, just to go over bids, kind of get a consensus of what are the most promising ones, which ones do we really want to investigate further, because I don't think we're going to be able to do the complete investigation and actually vote up or down on
in the November.
I think we would have to have the vote up or down on this alternative and who to go with at the December meeting, and that's my target. And I chose that not only because I think that's the best we could do, and it's yet a sensible time frame in which we could, I think, do a good job. Particularly if we get some more bodies helping us.
Be sure to broadcast that time frame loud and wide, so that people know that if they have scheduling conflicts to chime.
I'm going to send an email out first thing. Well, when I get back from school tomorrow, telling the whole board and everybody and you three, the 3 informal members of the subcommittee.
The December meeting will be the 3rd Thursday.
The December meeting, I think, has to be the 3rd.
Yeah.
I think it's going to have to be the 3rd. I know we usually don't, but this
what about
year
the
we're going to
November?
have to. The November, I think, we should push it.
Well, we have.
Well, we're going to have to pick when that is based on holidays and how much we can.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to make a decision about that on a rolling basis in early November.
Yeah, well, November we have 5 Thursdays to choose from, one of which is going to be Thanksgiving. So that's
So maybe that last Thursday after Thanksgiving, which saves us the trouble of conflicting with it, might be the choice. That was my original thought. And then the Thursday prior to Christmas.
one of the things that I can do is put up a graphical calendar so we can start getting some of these, pin some of these dates up there. So
That's
that
a great idea. Good. So that's what we need to do now, I guess, is to decide who's going to do which parts of the immediate thing. I mean, anyone who's been already talking to property, I've been talking to some, and I know others here have been, who wants to go off and get a template, a couple templates for an outfit the size of ours. So something comparable.
Well, what I've been doing is sort of backwards of that. I've been going through the various websites that Scott posted to the Google group a few weeks ago, and basically just sucking out their lists of services and tagging it with the management company and putting it into a database, which then so basically we have the big bucket of everything.
Okay.
And then we can go through and, block out the names of the companies, pick out the services that look like what we want, and then, go back and see what matches up most closely.
Well, so then maybe the role for someone else, and I'd be happy to work on this with anyone who wants to work on it, who's sort of more familiar. So maybe Chris, who's been here for a long time. Okay.
I said no.
Hey,
Well,
that's
it's
all right.
going into winter and I'm starting to have problems.
That's
so
okay.
I might.
I mean, I'm going to be leaning on, I'm in the email, I'm going to be alerting everybody to the kind of timetable, the decision to go ahead with the subcommittee, what it's doing on what timetable, and then also, here are the things that we need to do first, second, third, here's when we need people.
Also,
we've got people working on the subcommittee.
keep an eye out for things that people do not have to be on site to do, because we have several off-site owners who have expressed frustration that they can't really contribute.
Right.
And so, we got our guy in Turkey, we got our folks in Arizona and stuff, and anything that we can hand off to them. Additionally, in addition to bringing more hands into the job, it'll make them feel more involved as well.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to include anybody who's interested, but at the same time, and this has become sort of evident just in the back and forth amongst those at this table and one or two others, that unless you have nothing else to do, compiling information when multiple voices are, weighing in on the same issue can drive everybody a little nuts. So we might want to early on.
Well, that's his job. He's the communications guy.
Well, there is that.
Figure came out in a hurry.
But we might want to get. I mean, obviously, this is going to be for the next meeting of the subcommittee. It seems like getting sample templates from outside is one clear thing we should do. I would be happy with anyone else who wants to join me. Just make a rough list of all the services I know are being performed at this HOA and who's performing them, so that we can then run off and get numbers. Because if we're going to make comparisons between what's being offered to us and what we already are getting, then somebody's going to have to carefully go through our budget, look at every service that's being provided to us on an annual basis, break out the costs.
Well, I
that
wanted to
seemed
get in
to-
here, I wanted to explore the relationship between job descriptions and these templates that you're talking about. One of the things that I think we need, and I sort of asked Barney to do this, he never did it, but we have Barney's job description, and most of what he does is not on that. And so, before we can really do templates, we have to know what Barney does.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that he does is not going to be in the template.
Yeah, and I'm much more familiar with what he really does.
Yeah.
So I could go.
Well, maybe you could do it.
I was going to use the job descriptions plus the budget, plus there is a vendor list,
Right.
and my knowledge of who's been doing what to whom over the last couple of years, and try to extract from that. Here's what the managing agent actually does, and get a descriptor that
That's
we
a
can
big
then-
project then. So.
It is.
Yeah,
it is, and I'm going to need some help.
Yeah, you can toss a lot of
I'm
that.
going to try to get Dan to help with that because he was president before. He's been involved with. He was involved in the Mansard thing. He's been involved in almost every infrastructure thing going back, and all the other things. The problems with the elevators. Lots of
This
things.
can't be something that Barney puts together, or he can't be comprehensive enough.
Well, I think I am going to put Barney on parts of this. I'm going to ask him to throw some stuff up on the wall for us based on his experience, so that I have that to look at too. Because he'll throw in things that I don't know about as clearly. But I think this job I'm talking about is going to be a process of condensing, compiling, stripping away. This is redundant. That was never mentioned.
One of the things
This isn't what it seems to be, and I know that, and so on.
One of the things to keep in mind about a lot of stuff that Barney's been doing is because the infrastructure has deteriorated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
And
there's a
what
lot
he's
of like
doing.
one-off types of things or reoccurring things that he's doing because it hasn't been automated or streamlined or whatever.
But it's
the
still good to
situation.
get that data.
Yeah.
Right.
In the short term, we're still going to need a lot of that.
Yeah.
It is true that a lot of the actual day-to-day work that he's doing is essentially maintenance supervisor, and clearly one of the things we need to do in this process is stop the business of having our managing agent centrally involved in maintenance supervision. We just can't have that because if you're fixing that pump, you can't be thinking about all the other pumps.
Yeah, if you spend all your time responding to emergencies, that's what you get good at.
Yeah, you become a dispatcher for, like a cop.
A couple of points. One is that I am sort of a reflexive databaser. So as stuff like that goes through, I can suck it out of the data stream and start throwing it into a spreadsheet and start.
Well, I'll work in a spreadsheet because I prefer it that way too.
Okay. And the other thing is that we've also got the Bible that has been kept here since the dawn of time, and that's going to have a tremendous amount of data.
It's a lot of technical stuff in there.
Well, it's even so, though. I mean,
we can probably sift through and just get rid of the stuff.
If we could get copies of that to a couple of people.
How big is it? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Yeah, I've used it because when other managers were on vacation, there was an emergency.
But it'd be really good to.
Nobody knows where the water shut off.
Yeah, it'd be really good to get that scanned so that.
How big is it? Do you know how big it is? I mean, is it?
It's a Bible.
It's really big.
It's not that big as a Bible, but it's about like that,
it's manageable.
And it's a very informative thing actually for the manager if you read it and follow it.
Yeah, so that'll be a source of a lot.
That's where a lot of this timing stuff.
Yeah.
In the fall we do these things, in the winter we do this, and that's stuff that I would need to look at too. So who would like to join me on my side of it?
Well, I can help with collating information. That's my specialty.
So when I gather stuff up, I'll send it over to you, and then you can try to put it into a form that will be easily comparable with the things you've been seeing from the vendors.
And Scott, I forget, did the stuff that you got from Colorado Management, did that include the kind of thing that he's talking about, or do we have a template for what that? I'm a document wonk, so I need to know what it looks like. So if you have a sample of what you want it to look like when we're done with it.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything like that. Okay. They gave. I mean,
it would also be worth asking, in addition to everything else, if the professionals have models for that kind of thing. That how this stuff looks and how they reference that information, because that.
Well, I can ask the two people I've been talking to. The most important one of which, the one that's been most helpful, is just coming back from Italy 2 days from now and knows that I'm going to be jumping on her as soon as she gets back.
Oh, poor
to
her.
Find out,
yes.
What she might be able to help me with. Well, I'll listen about the PA top for at least 20 minutes.
She'll be relaxed.
Yeah. So, she's been in Italy. We don't have to worry about her.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the one to worry about. So
we're on to distribution of responsibilities.
Yeah, let's
Can we
decide
put all
who's
the jobs on the board and
why don't
then
we do
just
that?
get a visual of
Okay, sure.
all the stuff we want to
And
do?
put a note on there for Shara and do not clean up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we might include both the people who want to work on template production and then the people who want to work on the next stage, which is finding property management firms to seek bids from.
Our technology is failing.
Technology. It's just
that's why I hate those things. They have them up at CU. Give me a chalkboard and a piece of chalk.
Chalk is not going to dry out.
Right.
It's already done. Well, maybe there's another way to facilitate it so that we can sort of have make a list or something.
Well, I could just make a list on this piece of paper. You could.
We might have another one.
Do you want me to see
It
if I
doesn't
have
work.
a dry erase marker?
It doesn't
I
work.
live right
You think
next.
you might?
I think I might if I can locate
I
it.
didn't see it.
Should I go?
Sure, that'd be
Why
great.
don't you work?
I think
I
I do
think it would
actually.
be nice.
Because it'll be easier
Yeah.
for the
that
back
would-
and forth.
So you have a sense of the jobs that we want to distribute tonight, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, initially, it looks like the template makers break out into two groups. One of which looks for samples from property management firms. And these could just be descriptions of their services. I mean, it doesn't have to be a literally blank template, but just something that they present. Here's what we'll do for your HOA. And it could include, because I know that there have been some people who have tried to put together a bid as best they could with what they knew about this HOA. That's fine. I don't mind using that.
Yeah, we have two complete ones.
Yeah. So you could use those, but so one group is going to be looking at those. The other group is the one that I will be working with, subgroup that will be looking at the Bible compiling what, compiling what Barney gives me, plus what I know on my own.
Yeah, that Bible project, do you know anybody that has that kind of time? Somebody needs to actually go through the Bible,
I will.
scan it,